Hey there, this is the walkthrough video for the MLC Sub-Zero 100 guitar amplifier plugin by Bogren Digital. Ever since I got a hold of this amplifier, the actual hardware behind me, I've been using it so much in my productions here at Fascination Street Studios. It's a very versatile amplifier that can be used for everything from the highest gain to the crunch to the smoothest cleans, and it's like a Swiss Army knife in a way. So we decided that we wanted to create software out of this. We teamed up with MLC, and this is a licensed plugin presented by Bogren Digital. Okay, so let's dive into this. First here, you will see the actual amplifier head that has all the functionality of the actual hardware amplifier, but not all the knobs displayed at the same time. You will have to switch the channel here to see the different things. There are a few things here that are unique per channel, just as the real amp. And as you switch these channels, you can change the settings and they will latch. So if you go back to first channel and then go back to the second one, you will still have the settings that you tweaked for that channel specifically. Up here, you can see that we have some different sections. The first sections is the pre-effects or the pedals. And here we have two distortion pedals. We have the MLC Vanilla Sky. That is a very, very sweet sounding pedal that has white and blue control. It's like treble and bass, apart from the drive and level. And then we have a custom pedal, one of my favorites, that I've made into a software version. We call it the Fascination Street Overdrive 1. And that one has just the drive, tone, and level. And behind those pedals, you can still see the amp, and you can operate the knobs here. So that way you don't have to switch to the amp section, but you can actually be here in the pedal sections, dial in your tone, and change the gain, for example, on the amp. Let's check out the different controls of this amp for each channel. Channel 1 has a gate first. They all have that, and that one is global for all channels. Pretty straightforward stuff. You set the threshold of the gate like this. Then you have the presence and depth control. This is actually connected to the output transformer, and the low and high feedback is a result of how that is emulated. And that will create pretty nice harmonical effects in both the highs and the lows. The effect will be more extreme if you use high feedback, and a little bit more subtle if you use low feedback. You have the gain for this channel, and you have volume, which is basically just the channel volume here. So this way, if you choose the different channels like this, you might want to crank the gain up on the clean channel and then compensate down a little bit on the volume. Then that will latch as you go to the second channel, etc. EQ, 3 bands, bass, middle, and treble. Same for all 3 channels, but individually stored. And then you have the low EQ function here, and that's unique for channel 1. And that one will change the behavior of the low frequencies and the bass control of channel 1. Then you have a bright switch. It's basically brightness in 2 levels. This is a direct copy of how the hardware amp reacts to this function. It's not as easy as just being an EQ. It actually happens a little bit different cool things when you use that one. And then you can actually change the tubes of the power amplifier. There are 2 selections here, EL34, which is like the typical like British, maybe we can call it a little bit less gained kind of tubes, and the 6L6, which is what I would call perhaps the more high gain and metal type of tube. Typically, I would probably choose EL34s for channel 1 and channel 2, whilst channel 3 would probably sound a little bit nastier with the 6L6. But this is up for testing and evaluation. For channel 2, we have the exact same controls here as channel 1, but we do not have a low EQ function or a shift of how that operates. Instead, this place has been taken by the M45 function, which is something that goes into the circuit and change some values in order to reduce gain. And it will become a little bit more like a British plexi sounding in a way. This function will sound different than if you would have only lowered the gain like this. Channel 3 has the same basic functions as channel 2, but it has a different circuit and more gain in general than channel 2. And if I am very happy with the sound, I can go up here and save it as a preset. In here you will also find some really good factory presets and some really nice artist presets. And then we move to the cab section. The main view here is the front view of the speakers, obviously. And you can move the microphones towards you, you can move them to the side, and you can change the angle. Over here with the grid, you actually have a top view, so that way you can get another way of seeing where you are, the distance to the speaker, and also the angle. It's like a half circle thing here. So depending on your mood, you might prefer the grid view or just dragging the microphone like this. And if not, these 5 microphones and 2 cabinets are enough to get the sound you're looking for. You also have the option of loading an IR. Let's choose one of the heaviest cabs in the world. You can blend between any of those microphones and the IR like this, or select another IR on the other side and blend between those. With the arrows here, you can switch between the IRs that is in that specific folder, or you can go in here in the list view and select another one. And the benefit of loading any IRs you want to use inside the plugin like this is that they get actually affected by the IRDX technology, as opposed to if you were using an external IR loader. Same thing here. You can use the controls on the amp directly here on top of the speaker, not having to go to the amp section. The really neat thing is the what we call the IRDX technology. And over the years, I've been recording so many amplifiers and speakers, and I've always found that the real thing has this magic to it. It's like some sort of movement. And when we started to do our own amplifiers at Bogren Digital, the software versions, I tried to really pinpoint, well, what is actually the difference here between software and hardware? And how come that I just find it harder to work with the software versions compared to the hardware? I found that the biggest difference lies in the actual speaker. Whilst the real speaker has some sort of breakup and compression and a randomness to it, it's like movement somehow, whilst a software version using IRs sounds lifeless in a way. It's like the mix is standing still. So what we did was that we developed a system here using machine learning and tried to extract that difference between the real speaker and the IR. And the result is IRDX, Impulse Response Dynamics. And I'm going to show you this. I'm going to bring down the IRDX technology to 0% and then bring it up. And you will be able to hear how this life and breakup and extra harmonics is added to the sound, at least if your speakers is good enough. You can compare it to perhaps a tape machine or a transformer in a hardware unit. It's that sort of subtlety that creates depth and a pleasant sound, but is perhaps not like distortion pedal or anything. Okay, so let's listen to this. Okay, as you can hear, as I pull this all the way up, now I did pretty extreme settings here. I usually prefer to keep it around 100%. That's where I've dialed it in to like really fill in the difference between an IR and the actual speaker. But if I take it up here into the red area, you can see how the breakup and distortion is really adding to the sound. And that can be used as an effect, and you can save that setting in your presets as well. What this will do to your mix is that when you have it on, you will get this sense of depth and movement in your guitars, and yet when you turn it on, it will sound a little bit stale in comparison. And that's the difference that I feel between the real thing and software up until IRDX. Next section here, we have an EQ that is based on a really popular studio EQ. It's a graphical one with 10 bands. Those bands you can option click to reset, and that functionality goes for any function inside the plugin. The final section is the post effects, and here we have 2 pedals, one delay pedal and one reverb pedal. And we have called them the Fascination Street Max Delay and the Fascination Street Wet Verb. The delay is based on like an analog delay unit that I use a lot in my guitar sounds. It has a mix function, time that can be in sync, and then you have note values, feedback, which is for how long the repetition will go on, ping pong that will change this into bouncing between the speakers if you're in mono to stereo or in stereo mode. You can turn it on and off, and you can tap the tempo. For the reverb, you enable it down here, and you have a mix function. You have the size, that is sort of both the size and decay in the same knob, I would say. You have a low cut. You can cut off low frequencies of the reverb signal. So that way you can avoid like build up in the low end. Then you have the pre-delay function. For those who don't know what that is, it sort of delays the reverb signal a little bit. And that way you can get your guitar to come up front in the mix a little bit and still retain the nice reverb tail if you add a little bit of pre-delay like this. One thing that you will notice is that when I enable these, you can see that there are dots coming up here. And that's a very handy function, because if you leave this page and go into the amp, for example, or if you recall a preset or whatever, you will immediately get an overview of what is activated in terms of distortion pedals and these post effects, just by these little dots and marks up here. One thing that is really good to know is when the plugin is in mono to stereo, your reverb and the delay, if you use the ping pong, will be in stereo. But there are instances where you would want that in stereo but still have your actual dry guitar sound to be on one side. So instead of having to create a mono instance or pan the whole reverb and delay to one side, you could actually use the internal panner of the plugin like this. In the standalone version of the plugin, there are a few features that are unique, and one is the recording functionality that you see down here. You can basically press this button, and then it will start to record and serve as some sort of riff recorder. So now you can play along, and then when you think that, oh, that was a really good idea actually, you can just press this button again, and then you can save this recording. It will by default save the date and the time, or you can rename it to whatever you want. Save. If you want to find these recordings, you click the folder here, and it will take you to the riff IDs folder. Next to the riff recorder button, there is a tuner, and there is a metronome. Let me show you a few other things about this plugin. As you may have noticed, there are tooltips engaged here. So as soon as I hover over anything here, you will see that get a description on the bottom. What that function is sort of doing. If that bothers you, you can go in to the preferences and turn it off. Another thing is the values. Like if I turn anything in the plugin, you will get like an exact state of that value. If that bothers you, you can go into preferences and show values off like this. Then it becomes just a real analog unit. Another really handy function here that was deeply requested by myself is the redo and undo functions. Let's say that you try something out to move a microphone or whatever, you can actually redo things like this. Undo, redo. Another really good thing here for being able to iron out the best possible sound for your song is the A/B functionality. So basically you can create a really cool sound, and then you feel that, this is great. You could of course save that as a preset, but another way is to just copy this one into B, A and B, by pressing the little arrow there. You can see that it starts to blink, and now A is the same as B. So you can go into B and then have the same starting point, and then just modify the sound a little bit, try different stuff, and then go back to A, where you still have that previously setting preserved. And then you can save this. And what's really advanced with this plugin is that you can actually load two different presets here as well at the same time, in A and B. So let's say that we choose It Is Rhythm in A, you can go to B, and it's completely independent. You can have mega metal in that one. You can A/B these two. Pretty cool stuff. Another thing that is worth mentioning is the quality control down here. Right now it's set to ultra quality, but the default state of the plugin is actually normal quality, which is still very good. But if you switch this over to ultra quality, you will change some of the processing within the plugin and the IRDX into using a little bit more CPU and sound a tiny bit better. Sometimes it can make a lot of sense to use normal quality while recording or even while mixing. But as soon as you bounce something or do offline processing, it will always use the highest quality possible, no matter the state of the switch. With all these controls and these channels, I would say that you can more or less get any type of sound that you want out of this plugin. Don't wait any longer. Get the trial of this plugin and try it out yourself.